Hello, this is the video for the final project in CS4620 at Ohio University. This is a database systems class, and our final project is to create some sort of application that works with a database in some way. A lot of what we've been doing in this class has been using SQL-driven queries, but I've already done a lot of stuff with that, so I decided to do something with the Firebase Realtime Database. And what I did was make a administration tool for the project that I'm doing with my senior design course as well. The specifics of that aren't very important, but it does use Firebase Realtime Database. This isn't an SQL index query. You don't use SQL to index into it. It's more of a JSON object, and you just use references into it to get data out of it. I'll show off a little bit of how that works later on, but what I'm seeing here is the actual contents that are in the database. Normally when we load the program, which is written in PHP, we're going to start at the root, but in order to protect some of the data that's in the database, I'm going to start at a specific example test case that I've created specifically for this demo. So what we can see right away is the fields that we expect to see. We have a phone number, some other things, an actual email, a name that appears to be missing, and contacts, devices, notifications. This is specified in a single variable, so the program is going to look inside that variable to find what we need. You can edit that to whatever is needed for the program, so I can edit that as we make changes to the project. We can see right now the phone number, last login date, and name are all missing. We'll see in a little bit that only the phone number is going to be an actual issue because that's the only one that's required. And we can see that has password is a container, and that's apparently incorrect for some reason. We also see that we have 4 problems detected from this level, but if I go into devices, we can see that these are all links because they're meant to be containers, and that's also specified in the variable. This is how we navigated to here. Like users is container, this is a container, and now I'm in devices. Go into some ID, and now we can see the stuff about the device itself. I'm going to go ahead and back out. And the path up here was updating as well. That's how we actually know where we're at. This is all basically the same file that we're looking at. But I'm going to go ahead and check out what the problems are. There's 4 at this level, and we can see that devices didn't have any because that line didn't show up there. So we're missing a phone number, as I mentioned before. Has password is a container, but it should be a single value. And it looks like I've got a contact that's an invalid format as well. And I've got some extra data. It didn't show up there because I only display the data that's in the format that we should have. But the extra data does show up here, so we can get rid of it, prune it down, make it all look pretty in the database. This is meant to be just a better way of finding problems and fixing them than just going into the Firebase console. A little bit clunky, and it doesn't know what you're looking for. So we have links to fix all these problems. All these problems will be fixed in some way. Extra data can just be deleted. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. So the problem's gone. We're not actually going to be able to verify it without looking specifically in the console to see that it's gone. But it is not showing up here anymore, which is good. I'm going to go ahead and fix the phone number now. And the phone number is specified to be a number in the format that I set. So this is going to be a number field. I can't type in any letters. I'm going to type in a number. And I'm going to hit submit. And now that problem's gone. If I go back, we've got a number here rather than it being missing. Likewise, I'm going to fix this. And this is supposed to be a true-false value. So it's giving me true or false, of course. I'm going to pick false because I haven't set a password for this. Of course, this was specifically meant for this example, not to be an actual user. And now that's set as well. Now, because this is supposed to be a container, it's going to have more fields. This is going to pull every single required field in, and I get to fill them out all at once. So email is a text field. Just put in something random. My name is my first, last, and number, phone number. The fields are specified here. I suppose I should have them have a different name displayed, but these are the actual database names that would be filled. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that. Now I fixed all the problems. This, because I was in the contacts problem. This was a problem that was rooted in contact. The go back actually brought me to final example / context instead of just final example. But we can see all the data that I put in has shown up here. Also, it's important to note that I can't change any data that doesn't have an issue with it. Okay, so with that taken care of, I'm going to go through the code, go through a few of the things that are important for the project to work. The first thing is, probably the most important thing, is the format variable. So we have a massive variable here, which is the driving force of how the program knows what to look for. And what's more driving than that is this data form, which is a recursive style of array. Basically, the data form style of the format, the structure of the data form key, should be the exact same as the root structure. Root structure is going to have all of the fields that should be in the root, all the rigid structure, just the rigid shallow structure, at least immediately. All I have is users. Users is required. It's not required, actually. So if it's not there, it's not going to raise any errors. It's dynamic, which means that there can be as many children as it wants in users. And because this is dynamic, all of those users, I would like for them to be all the same structure as well. So the data form for this isn't actually for users themselves, but it's going to be for each individual user. The name is what shows up. If I were to go back out all the way to root, you'd see users with a capital U, but you'll see it right here with actually phone number. Instead of seeing phone number without a space, you see it formatted a little bit more nicely. So each user, again, is required to have a phone number. Data form here isn't an array, but it is like a terminating string value, so I know that it's supposed to be a number. And that's helpful for when I was adding the values to the database when I was fixing them. So everything else has already been gone over. Bool was how we know that we had to do the radio buttons. Yeah, that's the data format in a nutshell. The rest of the variables here are to get specific parts of the data format out, and to get problems about it given some data, get a general value that should be displayed, and get all of the required attributes that we should fix when we're going about fixing a container problem. We've got about 3 main pages here. Most of them do require that format. And we're using an admin SDK that will allow us to access into the Firebase database regardless of the rules that we set. I'm not going to be showing that, obviously, for reasons because database security and stuff. But that is how we are getting into there. The way that we're getting the data is actually just done through, we have a reference to a database, and then we get a snapshot from that reference. Snapshot has a value that we can just, snapshot get value. That gives us the actual value of the database at the point that we got the snapshot. We can display that however we wish. Problems does much the same thing. It's just going to get the data. We're going to get the problems out of it, display the problems. And when we're fixing problems, this one is actually, this might actually not require the database. I believe it actually doesn't. It's just we get the problems themselves. And we already have the problem, actually. We're figuring out how to display the form to fix it. And then the actions have the code that's meant to build up the data to actually pass into the reference set value. Set just allows us to pass in a value. It's going to set that reference to that value. That's how we modify data with set. This code is building up a multi-dimensional array because we can just send in an array, creates the exact object that we passed in. To delete data, we use remove. Database, get reference, remove. Single value, again, we're using set, but this time we can pass it a single value, and we get a single value. It also works with bools, numbers, strings. It'll get all the right data in the right form that we need. So that's pretty much all I got to say about the project. It's a little bit of a small example, but I think it will serve well, and it definitely taught me some valuable lessons about database management. So this was a pretty fun project.